I'm Mekklord. Today video, Shaddolls bad. Before Shaddolls dueling fun, but now because Shaddolls dueling no fun. Why no fun? Because Winda bad. Shaddolls bad, Winda bad. No fun card, Shaddolls bad, Winda bad. Me when Winda. Hope Farfa finds funny meme review. Pop the baby Farfa. How fix? Ban every Shaddolls card ever. Very good change. Ban all Shaddolls, Shaddolls no good, Winda no fun. Thanks for watch video, like, comment, subscribe, give money, Winda bad, goodbye, see you next time. Alright, we got that out of the way, got that out of our system. It's very easy to just go Winda bad and call it a day, which I'm sure is what a lot of people are tempted to do and expecting of me, so haha, you've been tricked. This has all been a ruse. Hello, Grand and chat. Hope you're all doing well. Thank you in advance for feeding my cats. This entire video is a joke, but that doesn't mean that we can't have a serious discussion about Shaddolls in general and how to balance it if necessary, which brings the question, is balancing Shaddolls even necessary in the first place? Is Shaddolls what would constitute a problem deck in the current Duel Links metagame? Like, sure, Shaddolls is tier 1, it is currently the sole tier 1 deck of the current format, but just because a deck is good, or even the best deck of a format, doesn't automatically mean it is not healthy or good for the game, or automatically makes it problematic. I think it's a little bit too easy to complain every time a new deck is top tier that, oh, this deck is bad, it's no good, without actually looking at the reason why the deck is good, and what makes it so much better than everything else. So what makes Shaddolls so much better than anything else? Well, there's a couple of things. First off, did you know Shaddolls is actually a pretty good archetype with several dozens of tops in the OCG and TCG alike? Historically, it is a deck that has managed to remain competitively relevant for several reasons. First and foremost, ever since the 2020 wave of support, it's a deck with insane combo potential, which is extremely good because it gets to generate a lot of advantage, put a couple of bodies on board, and gets to use unique archetypal tools in order to facilitate powerful land boards. Speaking of said end boards, you also get some pretty powerful boss monsters. Shaddolls Construct, definitely much stronger in 2014 than it is nowadays, but still a pretty powerful card that perfectly represents everything Shaddolls do, which is to say, combo potential and a lot of recursion, and also annoying boss monsters. The least of which is Shaddolls Winda, which is a pretty strong floodgate. I don't think we can really talk about how strong Shaddolls is without talking about, Winda very specifically. So yeah, I don't think I'm teaching anyone anything new by saying Shaddolls is a strong archetype, but it is also an archetype that has a couple of key weaknesses. First and foremost, doesn't like anti-graveyard shenanigans. Abyss Dweller historically has been a counter to many graveyard-centric decks, from Shaddolls to T-Elements, to nowadays where it has been banned for, well, preventing basically a lot of decks from functioning altogether. It's not just Dweller. Cards like Necro Valley and Dimensional Fissure can give this deck a run for its money. It can be complicated to play against anti-graveyard strategies or floodgates in general for, every graveyard-centric deck, including Shaddolls. Additionally, it is a deck that historically can struggle with consistency. There's a couple of bricky hands that you don't really get to play. Shaddolls is also a deck that can struggle going second, especially in the more combo-heavy variants, where your opponent will likely have set up more disruptions and way to prevent you from popping off. So all of these weaknesses have kind of been used to keep Shaddolls in check over the past, I want to say, 10 years of meta relevance, in paper at the very least. In the case of dueling specifically, it also bears mentioning that Shaddolls just got a pretty powerful skill recently. Not the other Shaddolls skill. Why did they get 3 archive skills to begin with? That's kind of insane. Now we're talking about this one today. So, what does Reign of Shaddolls do? Well, let's just read it together. So this skill has 2 effects. Add 6 Shaddolls monsters with different names to your extra deck and send 3 random Shaddolls normal traps from your deck to the graveyard, which basically means you're setting 3 Shaddolls incarnation for free to your graveyard, which can banish itself from your graveyard to flip a monster face down or back up. Which works pretty well with a flip archetype that Shaddolls is. Did you know that's a flip archetype? Additionally, during all of your turns, you cannot normal or special summon any monsters with a level except Shaddolls monsters and Spellcasters monsters. Notably, this does not prevent you from summoning stuff during your opponent's turn, like say, imagine, if you will, like if there was a card that said, I'm a big rock and I tribute all monsters on the board to special myself. That'd be silly if you could summon that in Shaddolls. Now for the second effect, reveal 2 Shaddolls cards in your hand, then add 1 Shaddolls card from your deck to your hand. Why yes, that's just a straight +1. You just get to add a card from deck to hand for basically free, and it can be any card that you need, which is insane. But that's not all. If only your opponent controls a monster, you also get to play 1 Shaddolls monster from your deck in face down defense position, and you can change its battle position. Which also means that you get a free Shaddolls if you go second for board breaking purposes or combo stuff. And if your opponent tries to negate the effect of the Shaddolls that you flipped, you can still use the rest Shaddolls in your grave to flip it face down, where most likely it will not be affected by the effect Veiler or the Fiendish Chain that your opponent has for it. It's insane. This is, all in all, a really strong skill. In fact, it's so strong that it pretty much removed 2 of Shaddolls' key weaknesses. Consistency is no longer an issue, and going second has been made so much easier. So all in all, we are looking at Shaddolls being a really strong deck, but is Shaddolls being so strong a problem for the current metagame? I am going to defer to smarter and better players than I on this topic by taking some excerpts from the latest TPC tier list analysis. Not only has it been mentioned several times that Shaddolls is the de facto best deck of the format and a near tier 0 contender, with little to no weaknesses to speak of, it has also been mentioned that Shaddolls' existence is enough to push several decks, if not out of the metagame entirely, down a couple of notches in the tier list, which personally I don't necessarily think that is a good thing. Like sure, we can all rejoice that Hero is no longer quote-unquote playable in this format, but I am of the opinion that a good format is one where you get to play and enjoy several different decks and not have to build around one very specifically much stronger than the other type of deck out there, which is currently the type of metagame that we're heading into. So as far as Shaddolls being a problem, the question that we asked at the beginning, is that the case? I think we can safely affirm that yeah, maybe it's a little bit too strong. Which then begs the question, how do we balance Shaddolls? Okay, that was not the OG question. The other question was actually, so how exactly would you balance Shaddolls without killing it entirely, because nerfing a deck to the ground isn't a good idea for neither players nor developers, because it punishes players for investing in a deck they thought would have longevity and reduces trust that future release will not get immediately gutted. So instead of making Shaddolls unplayable, we should try to keep it somewhat relevant but less potent if possible. Remember when I talked about the Shaddolls strengths? There's basically 2 things that we can take a look at. The cards, which is the basic archetype with all the strength that it came with, which is combo potential, cool boss monsters, this sort of stuff, and the scale that gives it additional consistency and better going second capabilities. If we look at the Shaddolls cards per se, I don't think it makes sense to hit them at the moment, because this deck isn't really playing any of the limited staples at the moment. Like, you could argue that Schism should be limited 1, because it is a card that enables Winda more often than not, but all that does is take a 1-of that you have to draw into out of the deck. It doesn't really fix the glaring issues with this deck. What I'm trying to say is, I don't know if there's any hits that would work, that would probably require several hits, several cards being put all together to limit 2 or limit 3, but I don't know what would feel good. So this is why I'm deferring to you all in the comments. Please let me know if you think there's a couple of good hits that could be brought to Shaddolls very specifically. Let me know in the comments. I would love to have an open discussion about what cards in Shaddolls should get hit, if any. The other option is hitting the Shaddolls scale, which in my opinion is the clear culprit and the clear reason why Shaddolls feels so dominant. Case in point, the other Shaddolls skills are not seeing any play, and Shaddolls is still a top tier deck. So how do we fix that? First and foremost, I would like to remove Winda from the pool of Shaddolls monsters added to the extra deck through the skill. I think that Winda in particular doesn't really add anything of value to any matchup. Basically feels like when you were playing against Ghost Tricks and they just activated the thing to replace their field spell with Summon Breaker, and suddenly that was the end of your turn. That's basically what Shaddolls is doing with Winda, and that's not fun, and that should not exist. And I don't want to hear anyone going, oh, but what if you draw the out to window? You need to draw the out to window. It's like, no, that's an interesting type of gameplay that Winter is encouraging, in my opinion. And we shouldn't consider that draw the out is a valid counter to any given strategy. Second, I would like to remove Nibiru from the pool of Shaddolls very specifically. I don't think Shaddolls as a deck should have access to Nibiru. So if we just change the during all of your turns part into a during this duel thing, that takes care of Nibiru. I know this is not the most powerful card that Shaddolls is playing. I know that there are topping Shaddolls lists that don't even play Nibiru, but just on principle, I don't think the best deck of the format should also have access to some of the best cards available in the game. And last but not least, that's it. That's actually all the changes that I would like to see to the skill for now. And you might go, but Mekklord, Shaddolls too powerful. We need to put more changes. We need to completely nerf it. But here's the thing. The goal here isn't to make Shaddolls unplayable, but to tone down some of its strength, which still keeps Shaddolls playable, and it probably still is the best deck of this format, even with these changes, because a good deck combined with a good skill is just that much more better than anything else. But it still makes it more fair and more fun to play against, in my opinion. I don't have an issue with Shaddolls being the best deck, but I do have an issue with Winter Pass being the best deck. I know it's not Winter Pass, I know you make it through Schism with 5P Masquerade. This isn't my first day playing Duel Links. Further hits will probably be necessary down the line. After all, it is still a very potent deck, but it's just way too early to destroy a deck that reasonably just came out, and I don't see an interest in it. I don't think that would be interesting to completely take Shaddolls out of the metagame, because we're on, like, day 4 of Shaddolls being a top tier deck. Like, cool down, everyone. I just hate Winter specifically. Playing against the Floodgate is never fun anyway, especially when it's a Floodgate on top of a competent deck. So, what now? Now that we've discussed stuff that I think should happen to Shaddolls, what can we do? I guess just wait, because it's not like I work at Konami. I don't have control over the ban list. So all we can do is just, for the time being, we have to deal with Winter, whether we like it or not. Most of us probably don't, but that's how much you can do anyway. So what's the point of all this? Why did I make a video to even do this in the first place? There's two reasons. First and foremost, I want to open the way for a discussion on Shaddolls specifically. Do you agree that Winter is a card that should not exist? Do you think the skill is the main culprit of the current Shaddolls dominance, or do you think some Shaddolls cards could be hit in a way that would keep the deck playable and enjoyable, but tone down its power a little bit? This is really what I'm trying to do with all of my videos, to create discussions about the current state of the metagame, what can be improved and what can be solved. So when people go, oh, all Mekklord is doing is complaining, well, duh, I'm trying to get a response out of you to try and hypothesize scenarios in which things are better. What's wrong about that? Second of all, like I said before, you've all been tricked. I'm only doing this so I can buy food for my cats. Here they are. That's the reasons I do all my videos, is to buy food for my cats. So there they are. I've been transparent about this, and you still fell for it. I can't believe you fell for it. It really all started because Crimson Reaper sent me a long message, as he does, accusing me of being too harsh on Shaddolls and Shaddolls Winter very specifically. And he included a line that said, Winter can lose you the duel if you make it too early. Which is the fucking stupidest thing I've ever seen him type. And I've read a lot of Crimson Reaper stuff. Like, yeah, duh, I lost a game at locals to my own Imperial Order. That doesn't mean Imperial Order is fair and balanced, because sometimes you can lose to it. In my opinion, the only fair Floodgate is this magic card called Floodgate, which isn't actually in Floodgate, and it's in blue, unlike every single Magic the Gathering Floodgate, which is in white. And if there's two things I want you to remember to take away from this whole bit, thing number one, fuck Winter, all of my homies hate Winter. Thing number two, when in doubt, blame Crimson Reaper. And that will be the real hand for this video. Thank you all for watching. I hope that you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe what you would like to see next. If you want to support me further, you can check out my Ko-fi in the video description, where you can make a one-time donation or a monthly pledge. I would like to take this opportunity to thank my coffee donators in the forms of Dingo, Stylish Boy Zero, Jimmy, Zinnia, Yannick, Sile, Mark Lee, 1416, the Abhisakta Guru, Alt Price, and Exorcist. Once again, you're all welcome to discuss Shaddolls and what should happen to the deck in my comment section, but I will not tolerate any of you Winter apologists out there. Someone told me that floodgates like Winter were a necessary evil. There's no such thing as a necessary evil. What the fuck are you talking about? This is a children's card game, not the Cold War. Anyway, thank you all for watching once again. Take care everyone, and I will see you all next time.